Hello, my name is Sophie and welcome back to my channel. The end of the month means one thing, that if you're following lots of people on BookTube, your subscription box, when's it ever been called an inbox? Your subscription box is going to be flooded with people doing February wrap-up videos, and I'm not one to break that chain. I'm going to add another one to that list. I've left filming this to the last possible minute to give me the maximum chance to finish the book I'm currently reading, and currently I have not finished reading it. But I'm gonna do everything in my power to finish it before I go to sleep tonight. So I'm saying that I read 5 books this month. In practice, I've currently read 4 books and 66% of one, but we'll get to that. I started the month with a book from my January TBR that I really should have got to in January, but I didn't, and that's the first book in the Famous 5 series. To give the briefest explanation of the wedding library, because that's a phrase I use a lot, when my husband and I got married, we asked our guests to gift us a copy of their favourite books, so we would have a little library of our favourite people's favourite books, and in an endeavour to read them all, at the beginning of 2023, I started what I'm calling a book club, which is just me holding myself accountable for reading a book, and my husband and I take it in turns each month to choose a book from the wedding library, and I read it and he doesn't. As an addition to that, in 2024, my mum gave us a box set of the Famous 5 books, and I was trying to think of a thematic way to read them, like if I wanted to save them for a seaside holiday, or if I wanted to save them for X occasion, but I couldn't think of an occasion where I would want to read 10 children's books back to back, so I've just decided to read one a month. And I obviously missed the boat on reading this book in January, but it was the first book I finished in February. I rated it 3 stars. I thought the writing was nice, I liked the characters, I enjoyed it as much as an adult can enjoy a children's book who doesn't have the nostalgic attachment of having read it in their childhood. It's not a book series that I ever read when I was a child, so I'm enjoying it as much as one can enjoy a book designed for people 20 years their junior. But yeah, I had a nice time. 1 down, 9 to go. Then we got onto my new release for the month, and that was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I found this in a bookshop 2 days early and I was so excited about it. I rated it 4 stars. I did really enjoy it. I liked the paranormal element. It really kind of made me feel nostalgic for my Twilight era when I was a teenager, and it made me feel nostalgic in a nice way, because honestly that could have gone either way. Those times were dark times. I really enjoyed it. The main reason I gave it a 4-star rather than a 5 is that some of the enemies to lover trope felt very forced. I've felt this with Ali Hazelwood's last 2 books actually. I felt it with Checker May and Love Theoretically, that the female main character had decided that the male main character was her enemy, and then she would forcefully remind herself of this rhetoric despite him giving her plenty of evidence to the contrary. It just felt forced and it felt a bit childish, and yeah, I didn't love that aspect of Misery's character, but generally I did like Misery as a character. I liked the whole vampire werewolf thing. It was really fun. Rated it 4 stars. And from there we went on to what should have been a nice, easy, fluffy contemporary romance, but it absolutely wasn't that. I read The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adam, and I was excited about this because for one, there's a character who is a ballerina, and I was a dance kid growing up. I still do ballet classes now, and I have a huge passion for ballet. And the other thing is that I'm currently on a free trial of an audiobook app subscription called BookBeat, and this is one of the books that is available on BookBeat, so I was able to co-read this book, which helps me read a lot faster than if I'm relying on my own brain power, and there's not a lot of power in this brain. I just found the narrative style so cringy. Both of the characters were already in love with each other at the beginning, and there's an element of fake dating, but at the crux of it all, I think I like reading stories about characters falling in love, and they had already fallen in love with each other, so it didn't really hit for me. But the way that I got through this without absolutely hating it is that I recently got into tabbing, and I decided to assign a colour to what I called a cringe tab. So anything that made me cringe, anything I thought was really unrealistic, really childish, for 2 adult characters, I assigned the cringe tab. And we have this. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but I reckon I've used over 100 blue tabs. There are some other tabs in there. There's a couple of pink ones for moments that I did find particularly romantic, and there's some green ones for moments that I thought were particularly poignant, but I'm 90% sure I've used over 100 blue tabs in this book because it was cringy as anything. I rated it 2 stars. I don't think I'll be reaching for this author again. Then I had a little bit of time between finishing the cheat sheet and getting my Audible credit for the month, and I wanted my Audible credit so that I could co-read the next book I wanted to read. So in that interim, I squeezed in this month's Famous 5 book, which is 5 Go Adventuring again. Also rated this 3 stars for much of the same reasons I rated the first one 3 stars. I feel like I'm going to get really repetitive in reviewing these very, very quickly. I don't really have anything additional to say. Sometimes the characters annoyed me a little bit more in this one, and I was pleasantly surprised that I didn't find that in the first one, but they have to find a plot from somewhere, and I'm intrigued as to where 8 more plots are going to come for these characters. But I still had a nice time. It's a very pleasant read. This was also an This is also available as an audiobook on Spotify, and because it is a children's book, it was 4 hours and 15 minutes long. So I had a few hours left in my Spotify hours for the month, and I managed to squeeze this one in. Then the book that I haven't finished yet, but I'm hoping to finish by the end of today. It's my book club pick for this month, so it's another one that came from the wedding library. And this book, I've felt drawn to this book ever since we opened it. I don't know why. I don't know if it was a subconscious thing, but I just really felt like I really wanted to read it. I didn't realise it was nearly 500 pages long, so that was why I wanted to wait for the Audible credit. But the book club book for this month is Revolution by Jennifer Donnelly. I have never heard of this author before. I've never heard of this book before, but it's a really interesting premise. I'm just going to read from the back because it will summarise it better than I can. Andy is broken. She's failing school and failing life. Since the death of her brother, all she cares about is music. Taken to Paris by her estranged father, she makes a discovery there that could transform everything. Hidden in a compartment of an old guitar case is a lost diary from revolutionary France. Alexandrine is a street performer who is trying to save a young life from the devastation of war. She writes her deepest thoughts in her diary, hoping that one day someone will read them and understand. These two girls, though centuries apart, are tied together by more than just a diary, as its words transcend paper and time. Alexandrine's past becomes Andy's present, and lives are changed forever. I'm having a really good time. So far, I think I would rate this as a 4 star, but depending on how that ending, this might be my first 5-star book of the read. Depending on how that ending, this might be my first 5-star book of the read. I'm just editing this video. I need to personally apologise for, depending on how that ending, this might be my first 5-star book of the read. That's a different level of not being able to English. Wow. I love the dual timeline element. I think Andy is a really well written character. Even though she's very much not like other girls, she's going to, it's not a boarding school, but it's a rich people private school for sure in New York, and she's like genius level IQ. Her dad is a Nobel Prize winning geneticist, and he thinks she should do something more with the brain she has, but all she wants to do is music. And she is very much like a John Green pretentious literary character, but her interest is music rather than books. And I'm just really enjoying that vibe. Maybe YA literary is the way I need to go, because generally I don't enjoy literary fiction, and I don't think this is literary fiction. It just has a little bit of literary pretentious vibes sprinkled in now and then. But yeah, it's really fun. There is a tiny little romance element, which I am enjoying as a predominantly romance reader, but it's not the biggest part of the story. The dual timeline is told really, really well, and the audiobook really enhances this book because as it's mostly set in Paris, it's all done with what I think is an authentic French accent. And sometimes when I'm co-reading it, I often think, if I was reading this with my own narrative voice, it would be a completely different story, because the girl wouldn't, especially Alexandrine's sections, wouldn't feel as authentic, because I'd be reading them in my British accent rather than the French accent, and it just makes it so much more immersive. I'm really enjoying it. I really hope I finish it today. Otherwise, I'll give you my final rating in my March wrap up. But fingers crossed, I'm hoping to finish this today, and it might be my first 5-star book of the year, but not putting any pressure on that. I've still got 34% of the book to read. which equates to about 160 pages, which is a lot for me to read in one day, so we'll see how that goes. But otherwise, it's been a really successful reading month. I don't know if that's maybe just comparatively because I felt January was such a bad reading month and got the year off to like quite a bad start. There was a lot of books that I didn't enjoy in my January wrap up, but February, doing pretty well. So that is everything I've read so far this year. On terms of my reading goal, I'm perfectly on track, I think, which is good. I've managed to maintain reading as a consistent hobby of mine. I've slightly changed how I've made my TBR for March, but it's a very subtle change that won't be apparent until April, so I'll explain that in next week's video. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you next time with a reading vlog or another reading books based video, because books are my special interest, can you tell? Okay, have a great day. Bye!